Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Chrissy Hodges, advocate for OCD, in particular the community name called Pure OCD, which also happens to be the name of my memoir, Pure OCD, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. I'm a certified peer support specialist working with people worldwide as they are working toward recovery. Also, I can provide referrals for therapists anywhere in the world. NOCD is an app. Inside the app, you can find all kinds of resources for OCD, as well as connect with people who have OCD. And they also offer telehealth. So check them out at treatmyocd.com. It's good to be here. It's good to see you. I know it's been a week or so. I was in the UK. I have lots of stuff going on right now. And then I got home and got really sick. It was not the COVID. I did take a couple tests and it wasn't that, but I just felt like shit. And so needed to recover for a bit. I am headed out to Kansas next week. So on November 4th, 2023, if you'd like to come to Wichita, hang out with us, we're going to do a lived experience event, as well as Spain, Sevilla, Spain, on November 16th. You can go to ocdgamechangers.com under the events tab to find out more. It'd be fun to hang out with you. I'm really excited about it. And then I get a few months hiatus of doing nothing except for playing in the snow. So that will be awesome. I hope you're doing well. It's good to see you here. I wanted to talk tonight about a really important topic that comes up but isn't discussed that often, which is how emotions and feelings can become compulsive. I also wanted to address how emotions can also drag us into the cycle. But first things first, what I really want to talk about tonight, the main feeling that I want to talk about is disgust. Disgust is a feeling that we get that we can start to use compulsively, conjuring up that feeling in order to prove to ourselves that we feel disgust about things. Or if we don't feel disgust, that must mean that whatever we're thinking about is good and is something that we do want. So when does this apply? I mean, this a lot of times applies to taboo, repugnant, unacceptable, intrusive thoughts. When we think about some of these things, especially sexual or even harm, we may get a feeling of disgust, and that is reassuring for us. Okay, good. I'm getting a feeling of disgust when I think about having sex with a family member. Whew, okay. I don't want incest, and that feeling right there just lets me know. Sometimes you even might test yourself. You might say to yourself, okay, I'm going to look at porn, incest porn, or I'm going to look at a family member and see what I feel. And you may get disgust and you will think, okay, thank goodness. Okay, I checked and I get disgust. That means I don't want anything to do with incest. And then you might check on other things. I am watching normal porn, which is not incest, or just porn that's not incest, that you enjoy and that you desire. And or you may look at someone that you find attractive and you may not feel disgust. And you may think, okay, thank goodness, I didn't feel disgust. So that means this is what I want, and this proves that they're just intrusive thoughts. It proves it's OCD. There is nothing that I want more for all of us than for feelings to be the barometer on whether or not intrusive thoughts are real or not, which then is an indication that OCD is actually part of your life and you just aren't someone that wants these crazy intrusive thoughts. But I can't. And that is not how it works. Unfortunately, when you use feelings in a way that is going to dictate proof or disproof on whether your intrusive thoughts are real or not, it is compulsive, and eventually it's going to backfire. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're relying on disgust when you're having intrusive thoughts, if you're relying on it, as long as I get disgust, I know that I won't act on them. I'll know that's not what I want. I mean, that is just fuel for the fire of OCD. At some point, you aren't going to get disgust. And this isn't because that means that you're accepting the thoughts, which is going to be what comes across your mind. I'm not getting bad feelings, so I must be accepting it. I must be turning in to whatever it is that my thoughts are telling me. No, you've just kind of depleted your feeling of disgust. I mean, once you try to conjure up disgust over and over and over and over, then it's not going to have the same impact. And so then the more that you try to have it, the more you're grabbing at it and the more you want it to be part of that experience, the less likely it's going to be. A great example of this is when you watch a scary movie for the first time and you had no idea just how scary it was, and it just rocks your world. 28 Days Later. Remember that movie? That movie destroyed my life for a few weeks. When I watched that movie, I had no idea that it was going to be as terrifying as it was. Blood barfing zombies, that quick camera movement, all the sound. I was terrified. I remember thinking, and this has been a rule of thumb for me moving forward, if there's any monkeys in the first scene and it's a scary movie, I ain't watching it. Because I know at some point it's going to be some illness, and I ain't got time for that. When I watched that for the first time, it was so scary that the fear was awful. It took over my life. But when I started to do exposures and I exposed myself to that movie over and over and over and over, the fear decreased. And I can watch that movie now with barely having any fear. And I don't get nauseous and I don't get that anxiety around it. So that shows that feelings can wear off. The potency of, I don't think that's the right word to use, but if we're looking at it like that way, the potency of that, if we're looking at it for proof, oh man, it's going to lose that power. And then you're going to feel like, oh no, if I don't have these feelings, which have kept me safe, which have protected me, now that must mean I'm accepting it and I might be this person. Pedophilia theme is the big one on this one, right? Shame, guilt, and disgust are big feelings with this. So you think to yourself, as long as I have, and fear and anxiety, right? As long as I have fear and anxiety, shame, guilt, disgust towards these thoughts, I know that they're bad and I don't want them, and my body is reacting and I won't act on them, okay? Well, the same thing's going to happen. If you're relying on those feelings to be there and you're conjuring those feelings up as proof over and over and over and over, eventually they're going to lose the ability to have that, I guess, poignancy is a better word, to be as poignant. That way you think to yourself, oh no, this must be the time because I don't have the feelings, that the feelings are wearing off and I have to accept that I'm a pedophile. That's not what it is. This is what happens with compulsions. And many of you out there know this. If you are doing compulsions and it is working and it is giving you some sort of relief, the more you rely on that compulsion, the less likely it is it's going to have the same impact as it did at the beginning. So this is why it's really important to identify whatever feelings you're attaching to your intrusive thoughts that are bringing you relief. Because if they become compulsive, you need to be aware that they are going to wear off at some point, and that is going to be terrifying for you. Another feeling that may happen, we'll jump to like relationship OCD or sexual orientation OCD, right? So if one of the feelings that I used to conjure up when I had sexual orientation OCD would be kind of that crush feeling, that butterfly feeling. And I would mentally review relationships I had had in the past that I would have those crushes on guys. And so then even sometimes I would listen to music that reminded me of when I had a crush on someone in 7th grade and was like pulling at my heartstrings. Or if I got my heart broken by someone, I would think, oh my goodness, let me remember that time. So then that will prove that, you know, that relationship and those feelings were real. And then I don't have to worry about the intrusive thoughts about sexual orientation. It's the same thing. It's just a different feeling. In relationship OCD, the same way. People might rely on that feeling of love and that feeling of lust over their partner or the butterflies. And they think, well, as long as that's there, then I don't need to worry because this is the right relationship or whatever. Oh man, that's going to wear off because you're using it compulsively. So we don't think about this a lot. We think about compulsions as being rumination and mental review and avoidance and things like that. But feelings absolutely fall into that category, and typically they're going to be reassurance. I'm using these feelings for reassurance on whether this is or it isn't true. Once that wears off, then the fear becomes very big for us of, oh no, that must mean I'm accepting this, and that must mean OCD isn't true. I'm here to tell you that is not the case. This happens to so many people when they're using feelings for reassurance. So just be mindful of that. Be really careful about it. Don't put all your eggs in one basket of disgust. Don't do it, man. Because you're going to drop that basket. There's going to be no disgust left. And you're going to feel like, oh shit. Anyway, let me move on to the next thing, and then I'm going to wrap up. The next thing is when we have feelings involved in our OCD experience that is not anxiety. So when we're seeing advocacy around OCD, we always see, okay, you're going to do ERP to reduce the anxiety. The anxiety's there. A lot of times, again, we rely on that anxiety when it's intrusive thoughts that we feel ashamed of or we're scared of. As long as the anxiety is there, then I know that I won't snap and do something and prove that these are real. Again, anxiety can wear off too. And so that is going to leave you kind of rendered feeling, oh no, what does that mean about me? But the point that I'm trying to make here is sometimes especially when you have intrusive thoughts for so long, or if it's intrusive thoughts that isn't like your normal theme and things switch, it may not be anxiety. It may be sadness. It may be shame and guilt. You may have feelings attached to the trigger that aren't anxiety, and so therefore you may not recognize it as OCD. So you might do exposure response prevention, or you might go into therapy thinking, but these thoughts don't cause me anxiety. I'm not having anxiety. Oh no, that means I don't have OCD. But what feelings are you having that are pulling you into the cycle? That when you had those intrusive thoughts, you get that feeling that is exacerbated times 1,000. Think about the groinal. I was saying this to someone earlier. When I have normal arousal, okay, when I want to have sex, or I want to fool around or roll around, that's how I like to call it, roll around, and I have normal arousal, okay, I'm not focused in on my groin, and my arousal just feels like normal arousal for me. Okay, I'm feeling normal arousal, and I want to have sex. Well, when I get the groinal, which is fueled by anxiety or it's fueled by some other feeling and the need to prove or disprove, the groinal is so big and it feels so much bigger than normal arousal that my brain goes, uh-oh, that means that this is real arousal. When even though I had never felt that kind of arousal before, when I'm just gonna have sex or I'm just gonna roll around, right? It's exacerbated the same way. If you had a headache and all of a sudden you had a brain tumor, that headache would be pounding worse than imaginable because you're focusing and you're honing in on it. The same thing happens with feelings, and it's so important for us to know this. We can experience sadness or doom around specific things. Doom is a big one, and doom means like, oh my gosh, my life is over. Why did I watch that movie? Why did I go out that day? Why did this happen? If only I hadn't done that. I didn't appreciate my life. Yada, 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 yada. Those feelings can get so big and so pervasive in every area of life that you think, I can't get out of this. And this isn't OCD because it's not even anxiety. I mean, there might be anxiety there, but the other feelings are bigger. This happened to me when I had the OCD about my feet. And if you've seen my previous videos, you know this is a real thing happening to me. And so I didn't have anxiety. I had sadness. I had doom feelings. And until I identified that those are the feelings that continued to pull me into the cycle, so those were the feelings that I was going to focus on when I did therapy. That's when I started making significant progress. I was trying to focus on anxiety that wasn't there. So my point is, be very careful with your feelings. Feelings can absolutely get involved. Emotions can get involved in your OCD cycle. And if you're not aware and cognizant that this is happening, this can be dragged out for a really long time, especially when you're relying on feelings as compulsions. So I hope this is helpful for you. So good to be here. I'm so glad that you're here. And I hope that if you have experienced this sheds a little bit of light and even may tweak a little bit on how you are approaching OCD or even your recovery. I'll be back in a few days. I want to catch up on some videos here. I've got a lot of good topics, but just wanted to drop in and give this one to you right now. Go to ChristyHodges.com if you're looking for peer support or referral consultations. And again, NoCD and OCD, treatmyocd.com. Bye now.